And the Radio Vet with Dr. Kelly is back on the air. And thank you for tuning in. And we talk about all the little critters in our life on this show. And we have a real vet. We fired the fake one. we got a real one. Dr. Kelly, who works out of Mequon at the Easttown Veterinary Clinic. And, I think some of our listeners may have been a little nervous between last week and this. Maybe they're having a little separation anxiety
you're right.
to the show.
That's what we're going to talk about
today.
So
we're back to talk about that.
Yeah. So we talked about barking last week, and one type of barking did have to do with anxiety. So I thought, well, why not talk about separation anxiety this time? So I see a lot of separation anxiety, probably in part because I see a lot of secondhand dogs.
What a sad title.
All right. People like to call them rescues. Most of them were not actually rescued from a dire situation. No. They just were, at a fairly nice shelter. Someone gave them up, but they didn't really need to be rescued from death or anything.
Rescued from one blanket and went to another.
Yeah. So, but that is our common term now, as a rescue.
Yeah.
And so dogs who have, were born, they had a litter, they went to a home. They, developed normally, forgot about their, original home where they were born and, bonded with their new owners. If they lose that home all of a sudden, they're taken to a shelter one day for whatever reason.
Sure.
And they get a new home, there is definitely trauma that can occur in the susceptible dog brain. And so when they do get adopted and they like their situation, after about a month, maybe 6 weeks, separation anxiety can appear. And it often appears as a dog who visibly becomes anxious when you start to get ready to leave because they know what your cues are that you're leaving. And they maybe become quite a bit worse if you put them in a confined space, particularly a crate or a kennel.
Sure.
And the typical behaviors that they will exhibit will be excessive drooling. When you come home, there's a huge, unbelievable amount of saliva sitting where the dog's been sitting.
Sure.
Or you can tell that they have been trying to get out. They have aimed some sort of destruction, like scratching at wooden door frames or the back of a door or pulled down curtains around the window. Often their destructive behavior is aimed at the exits, what they perceive as a way to get to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
I know. It's terrible. It's really sad because this is a panic disorder.
Yeah.
It is based on anxiety. And, we think it's because, you've left and they experienced trauma when they were left by a previous owner that they were bonded with. And every time you leave and they're home alone, they just don't know if you're coming back.
Now, I have a question that probably will seem amusing, but I swear this is a serious question. Does this ever crop up in cats?
Supposedly, but I've never seen it.
Because cats are so much more, they just seem a little more comfortable in their own skins, so to speak.
And it's not that they are somehow less sensitive to psychological trauma.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't seem to be how they manifest it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. So, and then piggybacking on that, are there any breeds who you seldom, if ever, would see this in? Is there just there's like a separation anxiety free breed? Yeah.
Unfortunately, no. That would be great.
So,
but we do see it more in some breeds than others.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, if it's, unless I'm jumping the gun, but
no, that's fine.
Yeah, let's talk
so I tend to see it more in herding breeds.
Okay.
So German Shepherds, Australian Shepherds, Border Collies, I guess I haven't seen it much in Shelties, but a few. So animals that were bred originally for guarding a herd.
Sure.
And I suspect
understandable that maybe they would have an issue.
Maybe
like that.
although I suspect that this is going to sound insulting to other breeds. It has to do with intelligence. I think that the smarter the dog, the more prone they are to anxiety.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, no, that makes perfect sense. I can see that.
Or the more potential they have to be prone to
anxiety.
I
think in humans too. Oddly enough,
I don't know. I don't know.
I've met some, like my more anxious friends, and I'm one of them. I'm one of the anxious people. I think are also remarkably brilliant. I do find that it's a weird sort of thing.
Maybe there's a connection there in people too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Of course, we don't chew the doors.
No,
or rip the curtains.
Thank
as much.
goodness. We don't have the teeth for it. No. We would be in terrible shape then. But
oh my!
And it's not that I don't see separation anxiety in non-herding breeds. I certainly do. I see it in again most often in dogs who've been rehomed.
Sure.
But it can also crop up in dogs who've never been rehomed, and we don't know why.
Yeah.
I once had a dog from a shelter personally who only had one previous owner, but they gave it up because it developed separation anxiety.
Oh, boy.
They couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
And
jeez.
And honestly, I understand because it's horrible to try to live with, and they can literally do thousands of dollars of damage in one day.
Sure, absolutely.
To your home.
We're dealing with this a little bit right now with our new girl, this little Maltipoo. I mean,
and how old is she?
She is about, I'm going to say, heading into 3 to 4 months in that area there.
Okay, so that's really young.
Starting to develop. I mean, she hates when I sprung her from her kennel, and I just kind of closed the kitchen door. Now we have this nice sliding door. It's a wooden door, so I suspect I'll be doing some. But her claws are so minuscule. She's again,
she's not doing a lot of damage.
2.5 pounds of dog there.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But you feel terrible. I mean, when I leave for the day, I'm kind of I try to remind her that I will return. Not that the English language has much.
So what do you do? So what can you do then?
Well,
when
that's
you
the question.
Have to leave.
Yes.
Is obviously you could probably bring your dog everywhere and maybe no one would know. But
I'm going to let the library director know that we have a library pet now. It's a library dog.
And
to file her in the 300s.
What we want to do as part of their treatment is one thing we want to accomplish is to uncouple the beginning of their panic with noticing your leaving cues.
Yeah.
So a dog learns pretty quickly that when you sit down on this chair, put on your shoes, grab your coat, and grab your keys, that you're about to leave.
Yes.
So dogs with separation anxiety start to panic when they see that particular behavior from you.
Sure.
So one way we deal with that is by hiding it, not letting the dog see it. So some people will, maybe an hour before they leave, they'll put their purse and their keys in the garage, come back in, do other things. And another way to, unhook or disconnect their panic from those cues is to purposely, sometimes when you are not leaving, you are staying home, you sit down on that chair, you put on your shoes, you grab your coat, you grab your keys, and then you go sit on the couch and watch TV.
Watch television.
You fake them out, in other words, so that they learn that every time they see these things, you're not necessarily leaving. That's not that's not a law.
Yeah, that's good advice.
So that's one, one goal.
Yeah.
Another goal behaviorally is to build up their confidence about being alone.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have to start by picking a room in your home, throwing some treats in there, letting them run in there to pick up the treats, close the door, open the door. Literally don't even count to 1 before you open the door. And because they haven't had a chance to display any anxiety, you praise them.
Oh, sure.
And then you try this exercise, many times over, like, say, 5 minutes, over weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully every day or at least several times a week. And you slowly increase the time.
Okay.
And they learn that, you're always going to open the door and be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with this, with the separation anxiety or SA, shorten it. You don't see it manifest right away, like you said. I mean,
it takes them a while to become hyper attached.
Yeah,
it usually seems like about 4 to 6 weeks in my personal experience.
Yeah,
someone adopts a dog. The first 3 weeks are great.
Yeah, it's a sunshine,
and then problems start to happen because they've become attached.
Yeah,
before that, you were just another stop, and they didn't know if they were really staying.
Right. Do they? I mean, this is a more of a esoteric question, I guess. But I mean, do they know or have proven that dogs have memories of their prior living arrangements and their prior owners? And do they, I know it sounds a little strange, but do they miss them? I mean, is that what's going on there, or is it just something a little more abstract?
I think it's more like grief.
Okay.
Yeah, like they probably have come to the realization that they're never going back.
Oof. Yeah, that's pretty stark. Yeah, I can. Jeez.
And again, we can't ask them, so we don't really know.
No, I know. Like I said, it's an esoteric question.
But can they remember? That's a good question. So if someone has lost their dog and then 5 years later got to see the dog, would the dog have any memory of them?
This is the $100 question.
Yeah, I don't know, but if they do, it's probably very different than ours.
Yeah,
very different.
Probably odor related.
I suspect it is scent related, and that there's some like tickle in the back of their brain.
Yeah.
Like, but they probably don't remember. Oh, we used to do this,
right.
And I used to live in a 3-bedroom house. You know,
used to love.
It's not going to be like your memory,
right?
Yeah,
used to love watching American Idol with you back in the day. That was awesome. Oh, dogs! You're a fascinating animal. We're going to take a break. We come back. We'll hopefully talk about some more techniques and what we can do about this big problem. Calm down, puppies. We're coming back. I swear, from the break. And we're back with the Radio Vet with Dr. Kelly, and we're talking about a nerve-wracking topic today, separation anxiety. And as I promised, we came back from the break. We're here. So yeah,
things you may notice, early, or what are other symptoms besides drooling and not wanting to go in a crate.
Absolutely.
Barking.
Yeah.
Long stretches of barking
That's
while you're gone.
That's my girl's chosen expression.
Pausing for a while and then going back to it again.
Oh,
Destruction, as I mentioned. Going to the bathroom in the house where they didn't before.
Sure.
Yeah. So
sure.
say the first 3 weeks of a new dog at home who's an adult and already house trained, no problems. But then you start coming home, to messes in the house, and that's a new problem.
Sure.
That is a big symptom of separation anxiety. And that's when people really start trying to contain them, which makes them worse if it's a small containment.
Well, my girl, it's funny when I walk her to the her little kennel, which we pick her up constantly throughout the day. She's actually carried more than she walks, as far as I can tell. But my daughter just thinks she's a princess and I'm going to hold her all day long.
Right.
And that's fine. I said her legs are going to atrophy, but that's fine. But when I walk her across the living room, because I'll have to pick her up on the way out to the door and go across the threshold in the main hallway into the kitchen, I feel her whole body becomes this tense rock. And I'm like, oh, you know where you're going. And so I hate that. And I'd like to not feel that way. Luckily, we're not doing the kennel anymore. We're just closing her in the kitchen now, which is vinyl flooring. So whatever happens. And that's okay. It's easily, So today was her first day. So I don't even know. When I go home for lunch after this broadcast, I'll let you know.
There's no more vinyl flooring. She has removed it. Stacked it neatly in the corner.
Each square. It's very nice. I like her approach. No, but I mean, I'm
she may be a lot less anxious being left in a larger space.
I hope so. That's the goal.
I find with mild separation anxiety, when people are like, we put the dog in the crate and now he's got 3 broken teeth and we have to, have this dental work, and what should we do?
Self-harm.
Sometimes it's let's take a leap of faith and not use the crate.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, they're okay.
Let's close the deal.
That was okay.
Absolutely.
They're probably still doing some pacing, but at least they're not destroying anything and they're not hurting themselves.
More room to pace. That's great. Have more options. I think options are good for
because the smallness of the crate does make it worse somehow.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's like a little claustrophobia. I guess I don't know if that translates to dogs or not, but
it may just be that it's a really in your face kind of barrier between the pet and you.
Sure. It's you're in jail.
Yeah, exactly.
You're basically been incarcerated for the day.
So if they're left in a room with the crate as an option with an open door.
Yes,
they might actually go in it.
I did just that when I left this morning, so we'll see how that all works out. Plus various blanket options, one of which is in front of the register where the heat comes out. So I have a feeling she's going to really opt for that pretty quick. So we're hoping for the best. I would. I mean, it's just me.
So in more severe cases, where real damage is being done, the dog's basically in danger of losing its home again.
Yeah.
Because you can't live with that for very long.
Absolutely.
Or a lot of people just won't.
Yeah.
Understandably, I think. So,
and the larger the dog, the more the damage, I would think. I mean,
and when someone comes in and their dog obviously has moderate to severe separation anxiety, I try really hard to get them on 2 medications, one that takes a while to start working and one that's going to help right away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then we eventually probably don't need the one that was, helping in the short run.
Yeah.
In order to deal with it. So again, what the medication will do is not only take down their anxiety level chemically,
yes,
it will help them be in a place in their minds where they can actually learn.
Sure.
Because when they're experiencing the level of stress and anxiety that they are experiencing, they really can't learn very easily.
It's just blind terror. I mean, it's fight or flight. It's all that kind of stuff. And usually not a lot of learning goes on in those modes for us either. You know, I mean, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly. And what's strange, I think, about the medications, the most common one that's used, more long-term, therapeutically, those are the SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Everybody's familiar with Prozac and Paxil and Zoloft. Well, they've been around long enough that they're available generic and cheaply. And so now, dogs can take them. Dogs who don't have insurance. And it's
Wait a minute,
reasonable.
Something's very wrong here. We'll get into that some other show. It's a different topic for another day.
Yeah, so those are commonly chosen for therapy, along with the behavioral approaches where we teach them to have confidence being alone when they can't see you, and we teach them that grabbing your keys doesn't mean the end of the world. So something you may want to do if you carry your little dog around and you feel her body getting tense.
Oh, sure.
Do that when you're not leaving.
Yeah. Oh, and but actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, if I pick her up, I'm usually sitting in a recliner because we're going to snuggle for 2.5 hours. It's my teddy bear. But I don't really walk around the house with her. You just kind of.
So if you go through your walking toward the kitchen routine.
Yeah.
You may feel her tense up, but then you go back to the recliner or you set her down and do something else.
This is why Dr. Kelly has paid the big bucks.
Right.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. So we'll begin that today.
Yeah, just because she has learned that cue, and it does begin her anxiety because you can actually physically feel it when you're touching her.
100%. It's like this little, imagine picking up a tense brick. It's like you pick up a brick, but it's heavier than the usual brick. It's just,
she may be tiny, but she's all muscle.
She is. I think I absolutely agree with that. She's a little multi-poo. But so have you seen any recent cases where, I guess I'm looking for right now are happy endings?
Happy endings, yes. So I remember one patient who developed anxiety at a specific stage of puppy development. It was actually, I think, around 8 to 9 months of age. And
weird. Okay.
It's named, and it's not as predictable as we would hope it would be. It can occur anywhere from probably 6 to 12 months of age, maybe even longer, but it's called their second fear period. It's a period of brain development. So all puppies have their first fear period around 8 weeks of age. And it's just this stage of brain development in which they can be they're afraid of some new things, but when they're at 8 weeks, they recover easily and they move past it.
Okay.
When they're at more like 9, 10, 11 months, that's when it can become permanent.
Okay.
And so this puppy developed separation anxiety right around 9 to 10 months of age. And we had her on
late stage separation anxiety.
And
How
so
weird.
we had her on, we put her on medication and we changed how she was being kept home, like what she was in as a containment system when she was home alone. And she actually did get over it. She got off medication by 12 months. She was
pretty
done.
quick, actually. I mean, that's
it was actually really quick. It was actually really quick.
Yeah, interesting.
And then there are many who improve with medication and behavioral therapy, although I honestly don't know how much people are doing at home behavior-wise because people are, they're busy and maybe they're hoping the medication alone will be enough because it's easier to take a pill.
Happy pill. Well, you need another happy pill.
And they'll think, okay, well, they've been on it for a few months. They're better, but they still kind of have it. So maybe the medication isn't doing anything. And then they try to stop. Oh, that doesn't go well in many cases.
Oh my gosh.
Then they realize how much the medicine was doing.
Cold turkey? Like
Unfortunately, I think a lot of them do try quitting cold turkey, and that's not a good thing. You have your serotonin level bottoms out, and it's bad.
For a dog, especially, I can just imagine those little, 12-pound, 15-pound, 20. I mean, that's holy cow. That's not a way to go. It's funny we're talking. It's about the same time as the separations. I have noticed that our little girl just this week started to bark at strangers in the house. That's new. It's around the same time, and I don't know if it's like puppy brain developing. And again, she's at the sort of at the 3-month, 4-month area.
But for a dog as tiny as she is,
she's microscopic.
Her development is sped up.
Okay.
So a giant breed dog, like say a Great Dane,
sure,
they aren't done with their bone growth till 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
Your dog's probably already done.
So I can stop shopping
in other
for
ways
clothes.
Might be sped up too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe we're at that 9.
Maybe
that's because it was unexpected. Like the other day, my daughter had a friend over, and she just, she wasn't vicious.
She's like, stranger.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, that kind of bark. Stranger.
Yeah.
Which is new because again, before she didn't care. She was just like she was happy to see everybody, and now she was just like, oh.
Well, now she's also developed a sense of home and what belongs. She's like a toddler. Everything belongs in its place.
She knows where the TV belongs, the remotes. Absolutely, very good.
Right. So maybe until another maybe few weeks passes, you don't want to rearrange the furniture. You might really turn her world upside down.
No major
Nothing can change.
projects. Absolutely. Well, so there's hope. That's what's nice to hear about with separation.
She may just continue passing through it and be done.
Yeah,
that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And then, hopefully it stays very mild and then it's done.
Everything about her is mild.
Okay, that's good.
She's so small. It's just like, but again, and with separation anxiety too, if you're in the thick of it or in the throes of it, obviously
God, you need help.
Address it now and talk to your vet. Talking to your vet's probably a really good place to start.
It can be so bad. Yeah. Some people try to keep take the dog with them, but keep them in the car while they're at work if they're in the right kind of climate, and they come back and the seats are completely ripped up.
Yeah. Yeah, or worse, they may repaint your car with bodily
in a
stuff.
couple cases, I've had dogs break through windows to get out, actually break out.
That's like
of
major
cars and homes,
self-harm.
Exactly.
Stuff.
And I had one dog chew a 2-foot by 2-foot hole in the side of a trailer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not that's some serious jaw stuff going on there. Holy cow.
So this is a real panic.
It really is.
Disorder.
And it's not something that is discussed as much as I think people, especially if you're going to like the Humane Society, I bet they don't give you a sheet of paper on separation anxiety. They probably give you a lot of stuff on housebreaking and everything, but they should probably include that because it sounds like a large possibility with a dog you're going to bring home from
I bet some places do because, we're pretty, I feel like in Ozaukee County and the Milwaukee, area that we have really good humane societies.
Right.
I really feel like that.
Well, if they're not, they should. Because it really is a topic that's not going away anytime soon. That's for sure. So interesting stuff as always. Well, thank you for coming in. And
you're welcome.
And I know you're coming back. You're coming back, right?
I'm coming back.
Okay,
I will always come
next week you're coming. Okay. All right. I don't have to chew through the library.
Take your Prozac. We'll see you next week.